Welcome back. I'm Matt,
And I'm Sam.
and we have a bit of a different kind of episode today.
We
Some
do.
may call it a crossover.
Ooh.
So, welcome to the Lost Legacies slash the S.A.M chat crossover.
Wow. Listeners, I need you to understand my brother, he's an actor. I don't know if you guys knew this, and he chose to interpret the slash by dabbing.
Sam's audio format. I was hoping they wouldn't find out.
Too late. Too late. They needed to know why I was laughing.
I'm trying to keep up with today's youth, okay?
The youth, do they dab?
I think dabbing's already out. You know, it came in for a hot second and then it dabbed itself out. But crossover episode is it's kind of weird. So let me just get it out of the way right now. This very episode that you're listening to is going to air on both of our show's feeds, both Lost Legacies and Cinnamon and Oatmeal. Now, if you're confused about that, that's perfectly fine, because that's why we're doing this show to begin with. So we have two podcasts, Lost Legacies and The Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal. Within The Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal, we have kind of like our little talk show called the S.A.M Chat. And up till now, that was a Patreon exclusive show. But now we're kind of bringing it to the main feed. But all that stuff, and we'll talk about that later, you know, and why we're doing this whole crossover. We're going to talk about that later. For now, we're going to start at the beginning, because of our two podcasts, there's not a lot of crossover between listeners. You either listen to one or the other. There's very few people who listen to both. So this is kind of like, I think Sam said, a reboot. We're just going to kind of like just explain everything from the beginning. So I guess, Sam, talk about Lost Legacies. What is it? How did it start? Why are we doing this?
Well, let me take you back to about 2 years ago. The world changed, and due to circumstances unforeseen and forces beyond our control, none of us could really see each other. That included Matt and I. And we wanted to still try and spend time together, you know, through a global pandemic. And we always like to talk about nerdy stuff. And, well, we always wanted to make a podcast about something. So we decided that we were going to sit down and watch a TV show together and then talk about it every week. Just putting a little good out there in the world, you know, something pretty positive and something that Matt and I could, you know, talk about, relate with, and so that we could spend time together. And that, my dear friends, is the origin story of Lost Legacies.
So we started watching Lost. Yes.
Yes. The hit ABC TV show global phenomenon.
Sam had never seen it before. Nope. I saw it when it aired. I started rewatching it like somewhere after it ended. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was just cool because it had been like, what did I say? Something like probably about almost 10 years since like my second watch through that I didn't even finish. Yeah. So, but the show premiered in 2004, I believe. So, yeah, it's already like it's almost 20 years old. So it felt like a good time to go back and watch it. So, but I think also just we couldn't figure out the name, because even for a few episodes we were just called like the Talkback Show or something like that, right? Like I don't even remember.
Yeah,
what we were
that
calling
sounds
it.
familiar. Yeah,
but anyway, we settled on Lost Legacies because it sounded cool, but also just like that phrase "Lost Legacies." you can kind of like there's kind of a longevity to it. Like you can still keep going without talking about Lost.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of thought like, hey, this would be cool just to talk about things that other people aren't really talking about, like movies we feel are underrated, or like in the case of Lost, one of the biggest, most successful television changing shows of all time. But here we are, nearly 2 decades later, and all anyone wants to talk about is the ending, which a lot of people are torn over, if whether they liked it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always focused on the ending and the last episode and whether they were disappointed or not, instead of actually talking about the whole show. So Sam and I were kind of figured like, hey, this would be a great time to see, is Lost actually good or is it just nostalgia?
Yeah.
And um, is it worth the ride? Is it fun? We just wanted to give it the Sam and Matt yay or nay.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're about a little over halfway done. Sam, what do you say? What are your thoughts?
Yay.
Nice. Okay. Moving on.
No,
No.
I mean, yeah, like it is. It's good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I do know that some things might not be fully answered or fully explained. I knew that going in. Uh, but right now I'm just enjoying the ride. And yeah, we've had some ups and downs. Like it's not they're not all great episodes. They're not all 5 star, but so far this show has been really solid and I'm excited to keep going. I'm excited to keep watching. I'm excited to get to that infamous finale, and
Yeah.
see what's what for myself.
Heck yeah. So in the process of doing this, we started doing like little other episodes. Basically, Lost Legacies is just a place where Sam and I can hang out and talk about crazy wild stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
episode just ends up happening it just happens to be about that episode, the latest episode of Lost that we watched. But we even start off talking about movies or whatever else. We're watching. We'll do our holiday specials. We brought our dad on for several episodes, who's never really watched Lost, or he was in and out as it aired. But
Mm-hmm.
we just asked dad random questions, and if you want to ask our dad some questions, tweet us. Just use hashtag Lost Legacies, or we'll drop our socials at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so basically, I'm just trying to explain what Lost Legacies is. It's kind of just a cool hangout space for Sam and I, and we kind of like want to share. And eventually, we will finish Lost, and we'll move on to another show or something. Now, that was our first podcast. Our second podcast. The first podcast sounds really crazy, and it's just all this stuff because it is. It's all our interests kind of thrown into one.
Mm-hmm.
Second podcast is a much bigger and more difficult endeavor, but I think it's more focused. And that's the adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal. Sam,
Mm-hmm.
first explain who are Cinnamon and Oatmeal and what are their adventures?
Well, for those of you who don't know, Cinnamon and Oatmeal are Matt and I's childhood teddy bears. They are two very cool, very lovable stuffed animals that we've known our entire lives. They've been with us through thick and thin, and Matt and I, we've been trying to like write stories with them for literal decades, a very, very, very long time. The adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal have gone through several different stages and formats of development. We wanted to write it as like an animated show. We wanted to do it as a movie. We wanted to do it as a comic book. We've done so many different things. We've had so many beginnings with Cinnamon and Oatmeal, and it just sort of never really got past, any like developmental phase. We like write scripts or whatever, but like that was it. And so once Matt and I started getting into Dungeons and Dragons and the TTRPG scene, we're watching shows, we're following all these different creators, and we still kept trying to figure out how we were going to do Cinnamon and Oatmeal, how we were going to tell their stories. And then a light bulb clicked, and we said, why don't we just play Dungeons and Dragons, but as Cinnamon and Oatmeal? And that's essentially the show. Matt and I play Cinnamon and Oatmeal in a fantasy world of our own making. And as of right now, it's just the two of us playing. So we are each being each other's dungeon master and each other's player. So for the first couple episodes, Matt's the dungeon master and I'm Oatmeal, and we're just going off having our adventures. And then a couple episodes in, we switch it up. I become the dungeon master and Matt plays Cinnamon, and it's all more crazy adventures. We're fleshing out the story, we're fleshing out the world as we play. And it's really fun. It's really fun because I'm throwing Matt some curveballs that he has no idea what to expect. Matt's throwing me curveballs that I'm just mind blowing. Yeah, that's the adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal.
Yeah, pretty much. There we go. We while doing that, we started doing the Sam chat, which, as I mentioned earlier, that was like a Patreon exclusive kind of special. Mm-hmm. Which essentially the Sam chat was Sam and I would we would just record ourselves talking basically about D&D. It would be about the latest episode of Cinnamon and Oatmeal and whatever was going on in like the Dungeons and Dragons world and news at the time. And it was cool, it was good, but I think the issue with our Patreon, and this is kind of why we're doing this whole episode, we didn't really get enough backers on Patreon, mm-hmm. which we had kind of talked about that. We knew we weren't going to get too many in the beginning just because it's a huge market podcast, and it's another huge market of, actual play Dungeons and Dragons games. So we knew, we weren't expecting much, but we weren't really accounting for was like the cost. Patreon is not free, just mm-hmm. so anyone out there knows, and it wasn't making sense. I essentially do all the editing of the podcast, and I'm not good at it, but I'm figuring it out. We're already 2 years into Lost Legacies, so I'm figuring it out. Mm-hmm. Cinnamon Oatmeal is definitely a lot more detailed because we're kind of going for a different quality. It's a storytelling experience. It's not just us chatting about whatever. So like I have a higher standard for that one, so it takes a lot longer to work on. All that time, all that work, all that effort, I wanted to put that something towards Patreon to start building like that library. Mm-hmm. But no one was getting past the paywall, Yeah. And it makes sense because they didn't really have a lot to go off of. Like, why am I going to pay for what am I paying for? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So we decided that we're going to scrap the Patreon, at least for now. So if you are a Patreon or a patron on Patreon, you'll probably notice that by the end of the month, the page is going to be down. So you'll no longer be charged your monthly donation fee. I don't know. So yeah, so all of like, unfortunately, all that time and effort wasn't worth it financially. Mm-hmm. If it's something like Lost Legacies where it's kind of just for fun, that's one thing. But to put all that energy into Cinnamon and Oatmeal and then all the like the other side bonus stuff, and not to have not to make any money off of it, but also not to have anyone enjoy it, because we're essentially just making it for a few people here and there, and we love those people and we love your support. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth the time and energy. Like, we could be putting that energy to something else, and that's kind of what we're trying to think of now. Like, okay, where can we focus all that energy and time to kind of help build the main channels of both Cinnamon and Oatmeal and Lost Legacies, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as of right now, we are in the process of essentially combining the two um, shows. Not on the feeds, but basically, we're trying to consolidate as far as like social media goes. We're probably like, we'll keep the Cinnamon and Oatmeal stuff. We'll see how that goes, but we want to do just one place where you can go and say, "Oh, here's Lost Legacies. Oh, here's Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal," and
Mm-hmm.
then occasionally, "Oh, here's the Sam Chat," stuff like that. What we have come up with is Hidden City Productions. Now, Sam, please explain to our listeners, what the heck is the Hidden City?
Long, long time ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, Matt and I, once again, one of our crazy ideas, we decided we were going to make our own bookstore, our own book company. All we had, all we had was really just uh, a whisper and a prayer. That's I think that's the term. Uh, Basically, yeah, we were just we were making a bookstore from the ground up, and we do mean that literally. We got a bunch of used books from anywhere we could, and we started going to different little uh yard sales, and like little the small like festivals that were going around and around our city. And that was kind of the plan, was to put our name out there, get drum up some business, get the name, get the word out, and then eventually build up to having a brick and mortar called the Hidden City. um because Matt and I, we've been working in the book industry for years, almost a decade now. And yeah, we love it. We love books, we love reading, we love the industry, and we really wanted to have our own little store. And it was not easy going, and eventually it did sort of peter out. But the idea of the Hidden City has always been there, and the idea of the Hidden City always being like this, finding this sort of magical place within the place you've grown up with all your life, finding something hidden, or something special that just means something to you. That's what the Hidden City means, for us.
Yeah. So essentially, Sam and I, we are from San Antonio, Texas, and at the kind of like the conception of this idea, I was thinking about like, well, okay, what do I want to call this place? And I knew, basically, I wanted what Sam just explained, and that's, I literally wanted the meaning of the Hidden City. So like, oh, let's just call it Hidden City, because when you think of San Antonio, you think of the Alamo, you think of the Riverwalk, or you think of the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much more to the city. And especially back then, 5 6 years ago, whenever this was, I had just recently moved back from Los Angeles, and it was cool because I had went off to college. Then I had moved out to LA to do the acting thing, and so I was gone for several years. And like, when I came back, I noticed that the city was so much different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more youth, and it's almost like the culture of the city changed and became more vibrant. Not just for the youth though. It's like everyone was jumping in, like everyone's enjoying it. And I don't know, I think we're seeing that in a lot of big cities right now, you know? I mean, just look at how many food trucks you're seeing around your city. I know we're seeing a lot. And back when I left San Antonio, there wasn't that many, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
that's just like one of those super little easy examples. But like all the cool restaurants and cool little like arts, like museums and arts and culture activities and stuff, it was just a really cool experience, like getting to rediscover my city. And that's why I eventually landed on Hidden City, because kind of like Sam said, you know, it's finding that little secret hidden place in your city, somewhere you're already used to. And that's kind of what that's literally what we became. We became the Hidden City Book Company, Book Co. And we were doing pop-up events and showing up in random places. And I think that was kind of cool. That was a cool little vibe, because like we were hidden. You never know when we're gonna show up next.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
also probably why we never made any money. But like, you know, we would promote ourselves and stuff. But look, just to fans of books in the book world, there's something you got to understand. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a small little startup like the Hidden City Book Co., or a big chain like Half Price Books, or a mom and pa, you know, used bookstore. The fact is, it is so difficult to make money off of used books.
Mm-hmm.
That's why half price books, they're literally half off the cover price. And that's kind of like the max you can go with and still, you know, get people to buy it. It is so difficult. And unfortunately, you know, I know a lot of people really hate capitalism, but hey, we live in a capitalist world, and all the mom and pop shops we want to support, they need our money.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was one of the things that, like, we were spending so much money trying to get this little pop up going, and the pop up was just to get our name out there. You know,
Yeah.
we even figured like, oh, we're years away from even finding like a brick and mortar somewhere to try and open, you
Yeah.
know, and I was just like uh leaking money. I was trying to find a
Something like
better
that.
a
Yeah.
better word. I was leaking money. It was bad. And yeah, and you know, I was still paying off my student loan, so I couldn't get a loan. So it's rough out there for small business. And I think it's in the back of our minds. One day, a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Sam and I are now working in a really good bookstore. Um, and you know, I mean, it's run by very creative people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really doing an amazing job in leading a bookstore forward in 2022 when so many other stores are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But the secret, guys, is the money. You know, money. You need to make money. So support your little indie bookshops.
Yes.
Also, side note, and last thing I'll say about it, you know, everyone's very open and honest these days about donating to charities. I think we should really get rid of the stigma of donating to a store, you know, because that's a good way to help those mom and pop shops.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go and buy something to give them your money. You know, if you want to support your bookstore, especially if you're a small town and you only have one, be their sponsor. Just be like, hey, yeah, you know, I don't know if you sell anything. I don't know your life. Put a picture of me up on your wall and I'll give you money. You know, just something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should treat mom and pop shops the way we treat charities. You know, as
Yeah.
long as it's something you believe in. But anyway, that's why the store kind of didn't work, but we still kind of have that fire in our heart and we love bookstores. I've been working in bookstores. I think this is my 17th or 18th year in
Oh,
bookstores.
dang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it was straight out
Oh,
of high
wow.
school, essentially.
Yeah.
Almost a straight out of high school. Uh, oh God. I just realized how old I am.
Some of the bookstores you used to work at don't exist anymore. That's how long
Oh,
you've been working in
I
books.
know. But at least I can dab. Um, that was like a whole like alternate conversation I wasn't meaning to bring up, but I just kind of stumbled into it. But the point is, Hidden City. That's the point. That's like our company.
Hmm, hmm.
So that's why we just kept it and the name anyway. And we're Hidden City Productions now. So in the next couple of weeks, keep your eyes and ears open on social media. And on social media, I mean Instagram and
Twitter.
Twitter, because I'm not hip enough for the TikTok for the TikTokers. But yeah, so it's gonna be we just wanted to make a place where you can get updated on Lost Legacies and the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal and everything that comes with Cinnamon and Oatmeal. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
business stuff. That's out of the way. Now what, Sam? Now what are we gonna do?
Well, unfortunately, that's our time.
All
So
right, guys,
thank
see ya.
you, everybody. Yeah. Like and
Okay,
subscribe.
so here's the thing: if you listen to the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal, you already know what's up. You know what you're listening to. Why should you listen to Lost Legacies? Honestly, if you're not watching Lost, I don't know. I really don't know. Just keep an eye out. Just follow us. Like and subscribe, rate and review. You know the whole spiel. Um, if you don't want to watch Lost, just listen to the episodes that don't have Lost in the title. I think it's a pretty easy way to find it too. The way we label our episodes, you'll know it says Lost in the titles. So
Yeah,
go listen
yeah.
to all the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple of holiday specials. We got some Christmas ones.
That's
We've
right.
got some Halloween specials. With a couple of friends of the show and friends in real life.
Mm-hmm.
They've come on and we've done like some like Halloween quiz, trivia. And then Christmas episodes are usually just Matt and I,
Yeah.
talking about the holidays, talking about what makes a Christmas movie. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I'm pretty sure we've gone back and forth about the Die Hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's a little rough. Uh, and uh, we also have episodes where we ask our dad stuff, kind of like Matt said at the beginning. Our dad who's kind of in and out of Lost, but we want to spend time with our father too, and we bring him on the show. We ask him zany questions and he loves it. Go listen to those because they are a blast.
Yeah. So we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. So we brought Dad in to just, you know, ask more questions, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And probably in the next week or two, we're gonna probably do our Halloween uh, episode for the year. So keep a lookout for that. Point is, though, if you listen to the Cinnamon Oatmeal, like I said, you already know why you're here. So I'm sure you can find something in Lost Legacies.
Mm-hmm.
But the topic that I think is fairly more detailed is if you listen to Lost Legacies, but not Cinnamon and Oatmeal. Oh, by the
Ah.
way, the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal, the
Mm-hmm.
acronym is TACO.
Yes.
Just so you know, because especially on podcasts, you say the Adventures of Cinnamon over and see, I already messed it up. If you say the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal over and over, it just starts to become one word.
Mm-hmm.
So taco. So now you know. Okay. So if you watch Lost Legacies, why should you watch Taco? We've already talked about Cinnamon and Oatmeal, and those crazy little bears. And I think what it comes down to is and you'll know because we've talked about this a lot on Lost Legacies. What is the D&D? What is Dungeons and Dragons? Sam was talking about dungeon mastering and stuff. Do you even know what that is, listener? So, Dungeons and Dragons, it's a tabletop role-playing game. Essentially, I'm trying to think because everyone who explains D&D, it always becomes super long and complicated. If you play a board game, you play a board game. That's on the table, you know. To play a TTRPG, which is tabletop RPG, I'm sorry, which is tabletop role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially playing a game where you have to take on any kind of role, usually a character that you create, and that's it. That's what the TTRPG is. Dungeons and Dragons specifically, you make a character, and your dungeon master is kind of like the head of the table, and it's their job to lead you on a crazy adventure. And it's really no different than when you used to run around playing cops and robbers as kids. You know, it's just usually you're sitting at a table talking it out instead of actually running and robbing each other. And there's rules, of course. There's a lot of rules, but that's really on the dungeon master to learn, especially if you've never played before. You know, dungeon master, and hopefully, if someone else around at the table has played, they can help you out with that. But it's just playing a game, getting into a character that you really like. And I don't know, Sam, like, I feel like that's Sam and I are kind of we're both, I hate the word, we're creatives.
Oh God.
But you know, like, I've been acting off and on, off and off. I've been acting off and off for over the past 10 years, you know. That's actually pretty accurate. I've been acting off and off. And Sam's done some acting, but he does a lot of writing. And yeah, you know, so I think we kind of had the easier way into it. We are already willing to role play. We role play anyway, you know, even if we're not in a game. So so that part kind of came easy to us. But it's just fun. When in your life are you given the opportunity to create something that's totally yours? It's very rare. It's very rare. Just this is a moment of quiet self-reflection. Think about that. Something that's entirely yours when you're your own boss. It's not that often, which is one of the many reasons me and Sam have two podcasts, is because we enjoy being our own bosses. Now just take that line of thought, but you add the creativity behind it, you know? The little kid in you who always used to have fun playing, you get to add some of that into it. You know, what was your favorite superhero growing up? Batman. Okay, well, let's not play Batman in D&D, but let's play your Batman. You know, that's, again, when in your life are you going to have that opportunity? You know, everyone loves Lord of the Rings. Everyone loved those movies. When are you going to have the opportunity to forge your own story on that scale, on that level? You know, most of us don't. So we do it as play. We do it as this game. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's why I suggest everyone should play D&D. I think a lot of people have been talking about it lately because Chris Pine mentioned it in the Dungeons and Dragons movie thing, promos and stuff. He's been saying he thinks Dungeons and Dragons should be in every school. And I think so, because it's definitely a form of improv, but it's so much more intimate. So, like in my case, I really don't have a problem with improv. I don't like performing improv though. You know what I mean? Like, I get you put me on stage, I'll be just as nervous as everyone else. But if you put me in an improv show, oh my god. I don't know if I'm gonna make it to that stage. I'm gonna
Hmm.
drive into a wall somewhere. But if it's just intimate, it's just this one little table, then you can do whatever you want. You can have some fun. So what
Hmm.
like I don't know, like what's your take on it, Sam? Like other than me hounding you to play, why did you want to play?
Uh, I wanted to play because I have a overactive imagination, and I feel like I've had that since I was a child. Um, like we said, we're playing with the bears, cinnamon and oatmeal. I'm, playing with my action figures, Legos, all that stuff. Like I and I write, I've been writing, little short stories. I've been, writing, things like since I was a kid. And I love the idea of falling into stories, of being in stories, of getting to craft a narrative and do a take on a story. All like those things. Outside of you hounding me to play Dungeons and Dragons, which at the time, I just considered, oh, that's nerdy. We like a lot of nerdy stuff, but I would never
That's
consider
where
it
the geeks
nerdy.
hang out.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's where my head was. You said you wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm that's like you're in your mom's basement, like yeah, it just felt too much for me. But I think what opened it up for me was the idea that I could be anybody. I could I could make myself as a Dungeons and Dragons character, put myself in a fantasy world, or I could, like, hey, like I can make like a cool looking monster, or I can have a cool weapon, and then kind of make up a story about this character's weapon. And well, how did I get that weapon? How did I like get to this point in my life where I'm off with a party or doing this or doing that? And I feel like, especially at the time in my life where this was brought in, I had uh I a lot about my life had been changing, on a personal level. And really, I had just been creatively stagnant for such a long time that the idea of getting to just be somebody else, with friends, and go on little adventures, and just get to hang out with other people, like that felt fun, like and that was really freeing. And now it's just something that I think about constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Just the idea that, like, oh yeah, like I can craft this world, or I can build this world with other people, and then we get to populate it with more people. We get to tell our own stories and do our own things. We could make Lord of the Rings. We could make the anti Lord of the Rings, or you can make something that Tolkien never even dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Mm-hmm.
do all of those things. And yeah, like it's kind of like you said, like it's this thing that is wholly your own. And more than anything, it's cooperative. You
Mm-hmm.
can, yeah, like if you want to make your own world by yourself, like go play Minecraft, go do something like that. But it's like, this is, and I know Minecraft also, can be cooperative as well, but
Mm-hmm.
just using that as the analogy. But like this is really just like you're sitting down with other people, getting to tell stories together. As this is as ancient as it gets, sitting around
Yeah.
campfires telling stories. Yeah, it's like it's very cooperative, and you get to do different things with it. You can build different communicative skills that you may not have known that you have. If you're kind of like a wallflower, you can kind of, this allows you to open up, you know I agree. I think this should be in every school. I think every school should have a D&D club. My nephew is in a D&D club, so at his school.
With D&D, the possibilities are infinite. Sorry, I just kind of wanted
Yeah.
to do a callback to the wallflower. You get it?
Oh. Oh, okay.
I am
I got you.
infinite.
Wow, okay. All right. Those are just some of the perks of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
um, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people they get it's very daunting because there's so many rules to this game, and then other people it's also very intimidating because it seems like there are no rules. Like you can literally try anything. So they're like kind of stuck. And I'm like, that's kind of, that's kind of the magic. That's part of the fun. So someone I think I believe it was Matt Colville who said that in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons is the only game where the rules aren't there to tell you what you can't do. Sports, video games, everything else, those rules they show you your restrictions. D&D, the rules are built into the game as a template to show you what you can do, to help you do whatever you want. And it's the only game like that. You want to do something crazy? If I can't find a rule for it, I guarantee I'll find something that will help me make up a rule on the spot. And that's how loose those rules are. And of course, this edition of the game is already 7 years old, I think, maybe, if not more.
So, yeah.
So like they're constantly working on adapting those rules. And it's just, it's to me, that's amazing, So listener, I just want you to think for a second, okay? Just so you're not completely daunted by the experience, of playing D&D. I'm going to give you a little example, okay? Player, you find yourself in a tavern, surrounded by people.
Right.
Yes, Sam's providing sound effects. Thank you, sir. It's busy. Supper time. The bartender walks up to you. Hey, old friend, how are you? Who is this person? He says he's your old friend. Who is he to you? Did you think of something? Do you have a name in your head? Do you have a relationship in your head? Now that you've told me, congratulations. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons. And we're going to skip ahead 5 minutes.
Whoa.
You finished your meal when all of a sudden you hear screams, yells, and shouts coming from outside the tavern. Instantly, 5 farmhands run through the door looking terrified. So, something's out there. Something's in the fog. And they shut the door and they're like, we need someone to protect us. And everyone starts moving tables and chairs out of the way, and they start trying to move into the back room where the L's usually stored. Now, what do you want to do? See, you have options. Do you want to run to the back room with everyone else? Do you want to move the furniture to block the door as a barricade? Do you want to unsheath your sword and run out into the fog? I gave you 3 options. Choose. Oh, so that's what you're going to do. Well, congratulations, my friend. You're now playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's it. That's literally all the game is. All the rules will come in later. Why? Because that's not your job. You're the player. You're the first time player. That's my job, the dungeon master. That's literally, that's why I said it's like playing cops and robbers, because it's whatever the hell you want. To quote one of my favorite shows of all time, The 100, whatever the
Oh
hell you
God.
want. Whatever the hell you want, Sam.
Wow.
So that's it.
Hey.
If you want to dress up, you can. We've never dressed up for D&D.
Not
Because that's
yet.
one of the things is, it's always a bunch of dudes in a basement dressed as wizards. I'm like, well, I've
It
never
can
done
be.
that. Yeah, I've never done that. I kind of want to now that we're talking about it. So that's it. There's some rules. There's some dice rolling. And that's about it. You get to forge your own story, you know? Why do you want to be Legolas when you can be you with Legolas skills and his bows and swords, you know? Eugelis.
Yeah.
Yeah. By listening to the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal, that's no guarantee that any of that will happen to you. I just suggest you go find someone to play with. But yeah, that's what me and Sam get to do once a month when we play our Cinnamon and Oatmeal games.
Yep.
And it is a bit different because it's rare to have a game where it's just one-on-one, one dungeon master, one player.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. That's what we do for this.
Yeah.
For this game anyway. But also, there's not Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcasts are basically just people who record themselves playing D&D, and they could do it live on Twitch, or they could like pre-record it and upload it. And it's exploding. It's booming. Industries are booming, and that's a big reason why D&D is like bigger and more popular than ever.
Yep.
Yes, it's Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. But it was already on the up and up before Stranger Things, and it hasn't stopped. That trajectory has not stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So this entire episode is basically just to explain to you that you should try D&D. Try it. You should play it. And you should listen to our show. You know, if you have fun listening to two bearded guys in their 30s playing D&D as teddy bears, then I'm pretty sure you're going to have fun at your table.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like dating, you know. You might end up at a table that you don't really vibe with. Like they might be too violent, or you just might not like their vibe, period. Well, that doesn't mean the game isn't for you. That just means that table isn't for you. Go somewhere else. Find somewhere else. And honestly, like because of the pandemic, so much of the D&D community is online. Like you can find someone in your community or to play online. It's a little different because you don't have your maps, or you do have maps, but it's digital. So you have to know some kind of computer knowledge. But yeah, for the most part, D&D, it's out there. That should be their slogan. Dungeons and Dragons, it's out there. That's why they didn't hire me for PR.
Wow.
We're advertising.
For advertising, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Cinnamon and Oatmeal, I think our show is fairly, I don't want to say family friendly. Like it is, but we never know what we're going to do or where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
We try and keep a PG-13 vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't really think there's any big popular like family friendly D&D shows out there. So maybe you fall in love with D&D and you start your own show. You know, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like I feel like that's kind of an area we could dip our toes into, just because this is a story about two teddy bears. I think it's very easy to attract that, you know, either parents or their kids. So, you know, Sam and I, we kind of like to play it safe on that front. We try and keep it PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
Also, these are our teddy bears since we were babies. So we're not exactly gonna, you know, have them decapitating people here and there. Mm-hmm. Although it's a fairly dangerous world that they've stepped into. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
These guys can defend themselves. Cinnamon and Oatmeal are tough. So Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I just I think we're kind of at least trying to fill a lot of gaps that aren't really being filled right now in like the D&D community.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really on purpose, it's just naturally because that's what it is. You know, it was always going to be a two character story and then other people could kind of come in and go if the situation presents itself. Um but yeah, I don't know. I think we're in an interesting position, and we will love as many people as possible to check it out, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to kind of combine the shows into one entity
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
the Hidden City.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Sam. Any closing thoughts on D&D or Hidden City?
Well, it's just like Matt said, you can pretty much do anything in Dungeons and Dragons. Uh and if you find something that you can't, well, hey, that's a whole other avenue, and you can get online and you can start tweeting about that, or start
Mm-hmm.
talking about it with the community, and then before you know it, boom, you're in the TTRPG community, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt and I, we're pretty exclusive to like Dungeons and Dragons because that's the game that like we play the most. That's the one that
Mm-hmm.
we love the most, we know the most. Uh, it's not the only one out there. If our show gets you into Dungeons and Dragons and you find that that's not a system for you, there are plenty of other systems for you. Uh, it's like there is a whole wide plethora of games, and Matt and I, all we're trying to do, aside from like spending time together because we love each other, we're just trying to put some good out in the world, and we're trying to like have some fun. And that's what the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal is. It's Matt and I, two brothers, playing Dungeons and Dragons together,
As
you
two
know
brothers.
as
Yeah.
two brothers. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's something that we've wanted to do for a very long time, and now we get to do it. You get to listen to our episodes. They're fun. We get into some wild shenanigans. Yeah, it's great.
So just to sum it up, guys, like we said, D&D, it's like dating. So is podcasts. So swipe right on us. I think that's the right way, unless it's swipe left. I don't know. Whichever's the good one. Swipe the good way on us.
Swipe the good way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, guys. So yeah. We would love to hear from y'all. I know we've had Lost Legacies has been pretty cool. We've made some friends online, people who were on a road trip and they found our podcast and they remember watching Lost when it aired. So they started listening and then they reached out to us, and now we get to contact them and we get to chat on Twitter and all that stuff. And it's cool, It's a cool little community that Lost Legacies is slowly building. That's kind of what we want to do with Cinnamon and Oatmeal as well. And that was our intent for the Patreon page, and it didn't really go well. So now that the paywall is gone, we want to see like the taco community expand. you know,
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So cinnamon and oatmeal, because the episodes are more heavily edited and produced. It's only a once a month podcast. Maybe eventually we can get that. I would love to do it like every 2 weeks, but that's a lot of work. So we would have to see like we would have to do a lot of planning, strategizing to see what needs to get done in order for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The Sam chat, the Sam chat, which is also an acronym for the Sam and Matt chat.
We love
Uh,
our acronyms.
yeah, I know that's where we get to sit down and talk about D&D and the show Cinnamon Oatmeal stuff. That's also we're planning anyway. We're just starting on the main feed on the main channel, but we want that to be once a month as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really a talk back because I know everyone's like the big thing right now is to do a talk back. or like a recap, like, hey, let's talk about the latest episode, Sam. It's not really that, because like we said, we're both dungeon masters and players, so it's really hard to say anything that isn't a spoiler. So I think at some point we will do that, like once those story arcs are finished. But as of right now, we're just gonna be sitting down and chatting some D&D. And yeah, and then as always, Lost Legacies, that's almost every week. Because we can crank those out like crazy. So stick around, guys. Have some fun. If you want to get a hold of us, always hashtag Lost Legacies, or I don't even remember what cinnamon. Hashtag the Adventures of Cinnamon and Oatmeal.
No, not that.
No, just hashtag Cinnamon and Oatmeal.
I think that's what it is. Hashtag Cinnamon and Oatmeal.
Well, it could be anything because no one really uses it right now.
That's true.
Yeah,
this
is like the very beginning.
Start it.
Yeah. Hashtag taco about it. Get it? Taco about it.
Yeah. I get that.
Because I have checked out the Cinnamon and Oatmeal Instagram, and it's nothing but not Instagram, hashtag. It's nothing but recipes and stuff. So maybe we can take it over. Who knows?
Okay. It's all part of the plan.
Hey, we're gonna get all the bakers into the show all of a sudden. Like,
yes,
I just found it accidentally. But if you want to reach out to us personally, you can find me on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
So the way we usually sign off in Lost Legacies, we say, get lost.
Get lost.
And then we sign out. It's so weird because we're still going. The way we sign out Cinnamon and Oatmeal, we say,
hey,
peace and pancakes.